Welcome to the Point Noted podcast with your host, Johnny B, and co-host who shows up whenever he wants to, former NFL player, Rashad Barksdale. It's raw, unfiltered, and no topic is off limit. We talk sports, entertainment, culture, and a whole lot of random shit. Let's get to the point.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Point Noted podcast with my co-host, OCO. And today we have a special guest with us. We have Betsy Sweet, and she is running for Senate for Maine. Betsy, how you doing today? Thanks for joining us.
I'm great, Johnny. Hi, OCO. This is Betsy. I'm doing great. It's a gorgeous day here, and most people getting ready for a long weekend, and so it's exciting.
Absolutely. I can't wait to get outside myself. I think I just got off work, so I figure let's get you on. Let's have a little chat and conversation, talk about your platform and these issues that you're running on, and why we got to get you in the Senate and give it of that other woman that's in there right now.
Yeah, that other one.
Right. So we'll give you the floor. So just tell the people listening who you are and why you're running and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, so I am running. It's a really important Senate seat in Maine because it is one of the 4 seats that's gonna flip the Senate. So I think we have a chance to flip this seat, but I think it matters how we flip it, and I think it matters, given this pandemic and everything. I thought we were in trouble before, but now I think we're really in trouble, and I think that we are sort of at this critical juncture in our country now where we have the opportunity to really make decisions about what way we're going to go. And we see how fragile our economy is, our political system is, and how many people are getting left behind, and how many people are, the system, economic and political systems have betrayed them. And I think that we have to go back and take back our democracy and start putting people back in it. And that sounds like some campaign slogan, but I really mean it. Like I've been working, Johnny. I've been working for almost 40 years now in the state of Maine as an advocate for people, and working on things like we wrote the first Clean Elections Act in the country to get money out of politics, so you can run with public financing in Maine, state or local race. Working on healthcare so that we all have healthcare, and college and technical school so we can have those free. Those are things that matter to people and that we can get done, and people have said are impossible. But I spent my whole life getting impossible things done. So I think we need that in Washington now, big time. And that's why I'm running.
Absolutely. That sounds great. And we do need people like you out there in Washington. And I was looking at your background, and you definitely have a background in helping people. I feel like everything you've been doing, like you said, for the last 40 years, is being an activist and speaking for the people, just being that face and that voice that helps them come together and get what's needed for the right people. But you mentioned that we have to get money out of politics. And I know what's here now is after this conversation, which is how do we do that? Because even when we do get folks elected, that money comes and changes them. It feels like once you get there, you change. So how do we change that? How do we fix that?
Well, first of all, let me just say that, because I've been doing it for a long time and being in this political arena for a long time, I am pretty confident in who I am and my beliefs. So I'm not going to let Washington change me. I'm going to change them. So that's number one. Right. But
that's good.
Yeah. But to get money out of politics, I think we have to do a couple of things. One is to obviously overturn Citizens United, which was the court case that said corporations can just give all they want. But that's a big lift. But I think 2 other things that we can do. One is to create a clean election system like we have here in Maine, which is a voluntary system, but it allows people to get a whole bunch of small $5 contributions. And once you get a number of them, then you get that matched by public financing. So it's an extraordinary system. And it's really changed politics in Maine a lot. So I think that's a thing we can do federally. And then I think the third thing we have to do is look at it from the other end, which is we have to limit the campaign season to 12 weeks. Because no one needs to listen to this stuff for 2 years, right?
Very true. Very true.
People stop paying attention. And so so people are like, I'm so sick of it by the time the election comes around. And, every other country does it this way. England, it's 6 weeks. In Canada, it's 30 days. Japan is 12 days. Can you imagine a 12-day presidential cycle? So I think the only people the long campaign season benefits are all the consultants and the pollsters and the people who make a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I think those are some ways we can get at it.
Sorry to break you up there. I was going to say, and the incumbents, because they also have the wherewithal, at least financial support, to keep the campaign going and kind of
Yeah.
keep their name in the news for not doing anything particularly except just being who they are. They're not like changing policies that affect people as much, but just being in the news cycle constantly,
Yeah.
it's advantage incumbents.
Yeah. Well, Osai, I want to say that the one thing about this, my 12-week idea, is that you could go and do what I think democracy is all about. You could go talk to people, go have town halls, go visit people in their communities, in their workplaces, for as long as you wanted. You could do that for 10 years. What you couldn't do is raise or spend money, because that's where the corruption comes in. That's where the undue influence comes in. So, and I think because people are, worried about an even more incumbent advantage, but I think they've already got, as you said, huge advantage. And this would allow them, they have the advantage in raising money as well. And this would take that away from them.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't have to spend so much money. I mean, well, you can, but in a way, if you only have 12 weeks, a couple of weeks to actually do your campaign and get it out there, I think it definitely make the race a little more interesting. We can actually pay attention because, like you said, we can ignore the candidate for the first year of the campaign, and then we can say, all right, we'll start listening 3 months before the election, figure out what they're talking about. So it's just too much time in between, and you need so much money to keep that funded and keep that going.
Yeah. I mean, this race against Susan Collins, they are saying that this race is going to cost between $100 and $150 million.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That's obscene. We only have 1 million people in the state, and only 800,000 of them vote. That's disgusting. And especially now, but especially now at a time where people don't have jobs, where people don't have food, we can't get testing and protective equipment to people, to spend $150 million on this race. I mean, and the way they're spending it, right, is negative ads and mail pieces that nobody wants to read. So it's just appalling, and it's just like this a nuclear arms race, only in terms of campaign money. And the other thing that's gotten so sick about it, in my view, is that that's how they judge whether or not a candidate is viable or not. Wow, 10 million in the bank, or 15 million in the bank, or 2 million.
Right, exactly. It's so obscene.
Yeah.
Right, and with the more money you have, the more people you can reach, the more you can just kind of blast the media and the airway with all kinds of things that you want us to listen to.
Yeah.
Talk about who do you see and who do you hear, right? Sometimes it becomes who am I hearing, who am I seeing on TV, and that's who you end up probably voting for, because you don't have time to actually go out there and do your proper research.
Right, and because you're sick of it, because it's been going on forever, and they've been testing, through pollsters and stuff, what to say and how to say it. So it's a conversation.
Right.
Yeah, poll tested questions. I guess where one thing I wanted to know, coming into the interview, Betsy, was the where we are in America today. It seems it's come down now to the establishment versus more progressive wing of the party, at least on the Democratic side. Something similar happened, although it magically disappeared under Trump, but there was a very populist side, the Tea Party side of the Republican Party. And they were kind of going head to head with the establishment, and they made major waves, but they've died out. They've completely died out since Trump came in, except maybe Justin Amash. So now on the left side, where do you think we are right now? Because clearly there's the establishment, and then there's the more progressive wing, which was kind of championed by Bernie, who's taking a backseat now. How do you see that divide? Where do you come in on that divide? I kind of think I know where you are based on your website and your policies.
Right.
But I just wanted to see, again, what do you think about where things are? I'm looking again, one of the things that came out recently. Sorry to go on so long.
No, go.
But we have Stacey Abrams, who happens to be the media's new latest darling, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But
Yeah.
she endorsed several people, including the race in Maine, and seems like she's behind the speaker Gideon.
Mhm.
How does that all balance out? How do you see it from a national perspective, but also locally?
Yeah. Well, I really think that the divide that you're talking about is, I don't see it left and right, or even left and right within a party. I really see it up and down. I
Mm,
really
Mm.
mm,
see the divide is between most of us, regular old normal Americans, and then the political elite. And whether that's the Democratic political
Right.
elite or Republican political elite, and they're tied to money, they're tied to big donors, they're tied to a reality that has nothing to do with our lives. And that's why I think
Mm.
people are pissed off. And so, when Trump came
Right.
along, I think people were like, well, I mean, he had certainly had a bunch of money, but he was willing to poke the system in the eye. And people were like,
Right.
yeah, I want to poke the system in the eye too. And I think the same
Right.
is true for Bernie supporters. We want to poke the system in the eye because we want to say, gosh, damn it, this system is not working for us. You are not paying attention to what's important in our lives. Because if you were, we'd have health care. If
Right.
you were, we'd have a minimum wage that was $15 or more an hour so that we could actually make ends meet. If you're
Right.
paying one iota of attention, and then we see a pandemic come along, and all of a sudden, all the things that we said we couldn't afford, all of a sudden there's billions of dollars
Right.
that magically appear. And some of that's been helpful, and that's good. I appreciate that. But a lot of that money went to corporations and cruise lines, and the hotels and the Harvards, and I mean. So, but the point is that the money is there if they want it. It's not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they can never afford. We can never afford it. The elite can't afford it when it's going to empower and help people who aren't part of that elite. And that's what I think. That's where the divide is, and that's the sort of populism that I think, if I have to give it a name, but that's where people are. And I think that's why a lot of people don't vote. But I also
Right.
why
Right.
it's why people get excited about the edges of each party,
mhm.
because we're mad. And
Right.
and I think realistically, so I really think the divide is up and down. And I ran for governor 2 years ago, and I went to every corner of this state, and the divide, the left and right, and in Maine it's north and south. I didn't find it. I found
Mm.
people's values were very similar.
Right.
I didn't meet one person who said, "Hey, Johnny, you're sick. I don't care if you go to a doctor." They wanted you to go to a doctor, and they don't
Right.
want you to go bankrupt having to do it. So,
Right.
I think it's really us versus the elite. And honestly, I think one of the big gulfs that creates that divide is money in politics, and the fact that we're spending millions and gazillions of dollars on races, and that separates them further and further from us and
Absolutely.
our daily lives. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think you hit it right on the head. It is up and down.
Right.
It is the trickle down versus the trickle up. And I think really what has solidified that divide, it's like basically it's like a magic trick that just keeps happening, is the media. The
Yeah.
media is kind of basically solidify. It's like smoke and mirrors. It's like I tell people all the time. It's like WWE, and they mastered it where both parties just have this way. It's all this drama. Oh, uh, his bank account, that, this, all these other things. But at the same time, these same senators say on the left, they're all signing bills, they're signing budgets for all the things that Trump wants. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, they're all signing off on it. And like
Right.
you said, it's all to the detriment of us. Everything else works so smooth for corporations
Mhm.
and all the agendas, but anything that improves the common man, it's
Mhm.
it's like pulling teeth. So I think it's up or down.
Yeah.
And the
Right.
question is, how do we start to unify
The party.
the people?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think, that's part of, I mean, that's part of why I'm running, and is because I think one of the things is, and I mentioned it earlier, we have to start appealing to people's values. We have to, and I also think we need truth tellers. We need people who are going to go to Washington, D.C. and pull the curtain back on what's actually happening. We have to pull the curtain back and say, look, we are still giving $20 billion a year to fossil fuel companies that are the richest companies in the world and are killing us. And and your tax dollar, my tax dollar, we're giving them $20 billion a year. Now, do you know that? Do you think about that? No, because no one talks about it. And when they say, well, where are we going to get money for green energy, or where are we going to get money for healthcare? I'm like, well, I got 20 billion right here. And I can go to any community hall in America and I can say, raise your hand if you think that money should go to fossil fuel companies, and no one will raise their hand. And if I say, raise your hand if you think it should go to healthcare for people who don't have it, every hand will go up. And I think that's what we have to start doing is telling the truth and then connecting the dots. And, we're up in Maine, we're right near the Canadian border. Yep. And I see people who say they can't afford their insulin. The young man who died because he was watering down insulin, right?
Right.
And the reason that our insulin is 20 times higher than it is in Maine, than it is 2 miles across the border in Canada, is directly related to the $7 billion the pharmaceutical companies gave in money to politicians. Absolutely. We have to connect those dots for people and say, this matters. This makes a difference. And, we got to get smart. And when we see those, there's millions of TV ads, we got to say, who's paying for those ads? And what are they investing in? Because it's not what you and I need. They want a return on their investment. And that return is for their bottom line, not for ours. And I think we just have to start talking that way and then saying, and then laying out a vision of how it could be different.
Right. So you mentioned fossil fuel would be one way we can pay for Medicare for all. So I have a lot of friends that, even on this show, I have people that tweet me and ask me questions all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, how are we going to pay for Medicare for all? I don't want my taxes to go up. I don't want to have to pay for somebody else's health coverage and things like that. So you're saying we already have places that money are going to that it necessarily doesn't need to go there. So we can we distribute that and put them into healthcare so we can take care of everybody else.
Absolutely. And we're already paying for everybody else. Like, we're already paying it in charity care and hospitals for people who aren't covered, in insurance premiums that go crazy because other people aren't covered. And so, Medicare for all is cheaper. And what they try to do, and this makes me sad, and I'd love your opinion on how we do this. But really, when I do this, and we can't do it because you can't see it, but when I go on do town halls, I take a big piece of graph paper, chart paper, and I say, tell me what you're paying for healthcare. So then we've got the monthly premium that are crazy. We have the deductible that's crazy. And then we have the co-pays that are crazy. And then we have the things that aren't covered, right? So basically the bar graph is like, sky high. And then I said, so if we did Medicare for all, the bar graph would be a third of that. Now, what they're going to scare you about is who you're going to write the check to. Right. And because you're not writing it to some insurance company where the CEO is taking the money and pocketing it and going to the Bahamas, we're writing it to this federal government. They want to scare you and say, your taxes are going to go up. Well, no, you're going to pay less than you're paying now. And so I think appeal to people's intelligence and say, come on, let's think about this. Let's get away from all the people who are paying millions of dollars to the media and to politicians to keep it the way it is so they can keep making their billions of dollars in profits. And let's actually talk about how we pay for the things that matter, which is making sure people can stay healthy. And we got to that way. We got to be, people are smart. And I think if we talk plain and simply and show it, people will get it and say, oh yeah, actually, you're right. Instead of talking points that they've heard.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's also where you're getting your information from this. So, because when Trump was running, he just pumped and just like flooded the airways. Even CNN and every news media was covering him, and every negative thing he was saying was getting attention. So there are folks out there, and there are folks out there that only takes those things, and that's what they care about. So like, for example, right now, if you look at it, there was a video on your account online on Twitter where you have Tucker Carlson talking about how the stay-at-home order there's no evidence to say it actually works, right? So if you have people that watches Fox News and that's all they see, right, they're gonna believe every single thing that comes out of that. And then you have folks that watch CNN, so two sides of extremes, and they're gonna believe every single thing that comes out of that. So, and you have folks like me that I get my news from OC. I don't know where you get this from. And that's what I go with. So, like, how do we fix that? Because that's really what the problem is. Trump can reach everybody, but I feel like the Democratic Party can reach every audience. So, but Trump reaches everybody because when he speaks, good or bad, mostly bad, it gets national attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think part of it is what you guys are doing, right? I mean, we've got to start thinking about how to talk to our friends and neighbors. And, one of the things I said before we had to shut down was the only way we could win this race against Susan Collins, me or anybody, frankly, is kitchen table to kitchen table. We got to sit down and have the hard conversations. I grew up on the back of a lobster boat. My grandpa lobstered off the coast, right? And it's like, and if I go to talk to those guys and women who are fishing and I say, let's talk about climate change, they're like, oh, shut up, Betsy. I don't want to talk about that. No, but they say, let's talk about how your lobster catch is doing. And the fact that it's gone down 30% because the water's so hot now that the lobsters keep going further north and further out, well, then we'll have a conversation. So I think if we sit down with our neighbors and say, how you feel? You feeling pretty secure about your health care? You feeling pretty secure about your income? And I think we also have to use this moment. We've got 40 million more people, tragically, who have lost their jobs in the last 2 months. And so
terrible.
When they tell us, when the
Maine,
no, they'll cross the country. In Maine, it's been like 60,000 people. So, which is huge for us and higher than it's ever been. But across the country, all the 60 million people, and 40 million. And then imagine that, just 2 months ago, the talking point was people love their employer-sponsored health care. Well, now 40 million people have not only lost their jobs, but they've lost their health care. So that means we should have 40 million more people saying, maybe that's not such a good idea. And now we have a door that's open that wasn't open before to say we have got to cover everybody for healthcare.
Absolutely.
I think we have to look for those opportunities. The same thing with unemployment, and we've done this thing that I hope it's a silver lining out of what we're going through. But, for so many decades, we have said to people, if you need assistance or you need help or you're unemployed or there's something wrong with you individually, you're a problem or you didn't work hard enough or and when really we know that it was system issues, it was systemic issues. It's the way we're organized as a society. And so now those 40 million people, they didn't do a damn thing wrong to lose their jobs, right? So now people get it that we have like really deep systemic issues that we've got to deal with. And it's not about an individual being good or bad if they need help. It's about how we're organized. I know that's a little in the philosophical realm, but I think I do think it's a door that gets to what Osi was saying, which is I think this is how we're going to start to get to people beyond the media.
Right. So you mentioned how when you go to your town halls, you have these demonstrations and you get the folks involved. And I love that idea about it because I think a lot of folks, especially as we get older, we learn more visually, being able to look at things and, and see things moving. There was a picture online, an article online about how the sky in India has just cleared out. I mean, you can see the sky now in India. And if you remember before, it's been just cloudy, just dirty. And there's a lot of articles on there saying, since we all being locked in the house, the climate has gotten better. Like the air is better. Things have gotten better. Do we just need to start just locking everybody in the house for a month out of the year to, as a part of the Green New Deal? Should we just do something that extreme? Like, 1 month out of the year, everybody just stay home, right?
My daughter said the same thing. She was like, Mom, I think we should just everybody should just stay home 1 month a year. No driving, And I think, I think it's a window to say to people, look, what we do matters.
Right.
Like this idea that it didn't matter and, all the climate deniers, all that stuff. But, what we do matters. And so I'm hoping that when we emerge from this or as we emerge from this, we're going to learn, we're going to say, okay, we're not going back. Somebody said, and I think it's so true, we don't have to work. We should not be thinking about reopening America. We should be thinking about reimagining America.
Absolutely.
Nice. Wow.
Right?
That's a good one. Yeah.
We need to think about reimagining how we could make our system more equitable and just, cleaner. How do we reimagine doing things that aren't going to result in skies where you can't see for a mile, but, and the dirty water and the hot water, I think that's the moment that we're in, or we could be in. And again, not to bring it back, but it's why I'm running. It's because I think we need leaders who say, no, we're not going backwards. we're going to go forward now. We're going to go in a different way, and let's use our smart brains and figure out how to do that. So this is a permanent solution, not a one time, 1 month, 6 week thing, but we make these into permanent solutions that make it a better country and a better world.
Right.
Betsy, I have to ask. I mean, I feel like you're saying a lot of the things that a lot of Americans feel, and I think the majority of Americans feel.
Mm-hmm.
In the last few months, just listening to the politics and back and forths on both parties. I mean, on the Democratic side, even with the bills that have been passed to help with the issues that have come up since the coronavirus, and how automatic the help to
Wall Street
and
right.
corporations, how easy that's been versus how hard it's been. I mean, a $1,200 check for a populace you've had at home for 2 to 3 months now.
Right.
Yeah.
When you see all these, and then just how depraved it seems the politics has become, and do you have a sinking feeling like, is this an empire that's falling apart? I mean, what is the way forward? I mean, we even look at the two main candidates right now. I mean, how do you see, what's the path forward?
Yeah, well, that's right. That's the big, $54,000 question, right? So it's like, and I think that, again, I'm an eternal optimist, and have been for my whole life.
That's a good thing.
I think though that this is the thing, is we have these openings where the American people, and all across this country, again, vast majority of people are ready to say, whoa, wait a minute, we got to do something different. And so I think we need leaders, not just in politics, but everywhere, to bring people together and say, oh, wait a second, wait a minute, we're not going to do it this way. And here's an idea. I think the path forward, part of the problem is everything is changing, right? Our demographics are changing, our economy's changing. It's all, and people don't like change. We're humans. We like things the way they were. So when this guy came along and said, hey, we're going to make America great again, we're going to go back to where we were, people who were nervous about change, which is all of us, said, oh, good, okay, we get that. Because progressives and Democrats and people have not painted a picture of the future that people can see themselves in.
Right.
And so a lot of what I spend time doing is I say, okay, let's all wake up together on a new morning, right? That sounds very kitschy, but and let's say that you go to a job that you actually only have to have one, and it pays enough for your roof over your head and your food and some essentials and a little bit of extra on the side to enjoy life. And then let's say somebody gets sick, and actually you don't worry about taking them to the doctor, you just go. And you don't walk out saying, oh gosh, I don't have that $150 to pay for a copay. But you just go. And then you go enjoy being outside in nature. And then, we have community where we all care about each other. But we just actually paint the picture of a day in the life of where it's just and fair and okay. And I think it captures people's imagination instead of their fear. And I think that's our challenge, and that's our opportunity, is we are so based and steeped in fear. Fear of other people, fear of somebody's going to get something I don't have, fear of that someone's take something from me, instead of appealing to the best in us and say, okay, we can come together and figure out how everybody does okay. And then we go from there. But first everybody's got to do okay, and then we'll go. And I do think that's people's essential nature. I do. And I think it's been scared out of us, but I think if we had some people talking about it and leading with that in mind, I think people would grab onto it.
Absolutely.
You hit it on the head. I think what we're dealing with here is, and it seems to be unfortunately getting worse, beyond the media and all the stuff they put out. It seems like the middle class, working class, lower class has been squeezed so much, and there have been so little scraps left that any attempt or perceived attempt to take that away from people turns into just people fighting each other for whatever reason, whatever the different sides might be it immigrants or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
There's so little on the table for the middle class now that anything can be used to trigger everybody and
Right.
get resentments high. So we really need, like you said, to just start to paint the picture for people for the way forward. But I have to ask, clearly the path, it's like a hurdle when you're doing a race. The first being, I think, Sarah Gideon, and then thereafter, Susan Collins. So
Collins, right.
how do you envision clearing each of these hurdles? What's your game plan? And how can people help you? How can our listeners help you?
All right. Well, that's great. Well, let me just first say, I want to go back to something else you were saying about how people we've taught to resent each other, right? And we resent the person next to us or below us instead of resenting friggin' Amazon that just made $434 billion in profits in the last 2 months and is paying zero in taxes, right? Why aren't we all mad about that? That's what we should be mad about, not about the person before who got $5 extra in their unemployment check, right? So, anyway, sorry.
Absolutely, no, that's it.
That's what we need. So anyway, yeah, I have to clear 2 big hurdles. And the first one is this primary, which is on July 14th. And the way I think we're going to do it, I really feel like this is a tortoise and hare race because of this establishment versus non-establishment race. It's not right and left. This is doing things, the Democratic National Committee, and DSCC, Democratic State Committee, has put its full body weight behind Sarah Gideon.
Isn't that crazy?
And so, they should leave us alone, let us do our own primaries. But
absolutely,
they've done that. But what they want is the same old. Yeah. And so if you look at what they've done this around the country in a number of races, and their candidates all say the same thing. Their websites look the same. They're not allowed to talk about issues. They don't take questions unless they're submitted 3 days in advance, and they can poll test the answer. They're not, and people see through that. So I think people are hungry for real people. We are doing organizing. I am on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or someplace, live every day for 30 minutes a day, answering anybody's question, whether it's help to get, help with their unemployment check, or what do you think about Green New Deal, or what do you think about the spirit of America? Doesn't matter what we talk about. And I think people are gravitating toward that. And also, this is going to be a really low turnout election because it was postponed from June till July. And in Maine, July, there's not a lot of people thinking about elections, honest to God, to say. So we'll help us a little bit because we are organizers and we will get our folks out. So, but we need help. And the great thing about, we've had to do everything digitally now, but the great thing about that is people can help from anywhere in the country. So you can make phone calls from anywhere in the country. You can help us, spread social media anywhere in the country. So
and you can donate from anywhere in the country.
And that was my next thing, Johnny. And people can help if you go to betsysweet.com. We are raising money. We are a clean funded campaign, no dirty money, no lobbyist money, lots of small donations, which we're proud of. But as my father used to say when we were, picking wild strawberries, which are little tiny things, these are great, but it takes a lot of these to make a dozen.
Right.
So yeah, we need people to help dig deep with that, and also helping us on social media. Like this is awesome. It's so great to talk to you, and following us on Twitter, getting our stuff out, putting our, following us on Instagram, spreading the word. Those are all things that really help, and there are way around the media. There are way around the big millions of dollars, and they're effective. They're really effective.
Right, and I love that. I love everything you just said in that last few minutes. I think it really sum up everything that you're running for and why you are the right candidate. And I know also mentioned the party divide, how we have to divide between the party. And then, so this kind of lead me to this question for you is Bernie, right? What happened? Like Bernie supposed to poke the eye of the system, right? Poke the system in the eye. But for whatever reason, that was not good enough. So, and there's a lot of Bernie supporters out there. And you mentioned how the party's actually supporting somebody you're running against right now, which it shouldn't be. So, and that kind of reminds me of Bernie's situation. So what happened with Bernie? And I mean, why is this happening though? Why are they just getting involved and just isolating one person against the other when they're both in the same party?
Yeah. Well, I think because they want to keep control and keep things exactly the way they are. And I think that Bernie, when you have a 7-person primary and you don't have ranked choice voting like we do have here in Maine, which is so awesome.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Imagine, if we had ranked choice voting in this presidential primary, it would look very different. Because
Very
if you
different.
added up the votes of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and maybe even Cory Booker, if you added up some of the more progressive people and put all of those together, that's way more votes than anybody else got.
Absolutely.
But instead, we just have to have the best of 7 candidates, right? So you only have to have 10% or 20% or 30%, and so, I think the other thing that happened is that people, because Trump is so terrible, people got scared. People got scared and they said, oh, yes, I really love Bernie, I really love Warren, but what if they can't beat Trump? What if they, and then of course the national establishment said exactly that. Hey, guess what? You should be scared because they can't, even though I don't think that's true. That's what they used fear to divide us and fear to keep us quiet and fear, and then that fear translated into what people talked about and what they could. And so the people that we could excite, young people, new Americans, people about a new vision, stayed home because no one's talking about it.
Right.
Or the person they're talking about say, oh, they can't win, they'll divide us. It's like, it's so ironic that that's what they're saying. So I think, again, in Maine, we have ranked choice voting, which is so awesome. And so that's not going to happen in this primary. And so I think, again, and I also think that people, what's that saying? Fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice.
Right.
Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, or whatever that means.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. He didn't pull a George Bush. You're right.
So I think people are saying, holy, we're not going to have a strong progressive at the top. But the United States Senate is the next place. And if we could get a strong progressive with another voice like Bernie's in the Senate, like Elizabeth Warren in the Senate, then they're going to have much more influence over the president, whoever it is, and be able to do some of this organizing. So if you think about it, me and in Iowa and Colorado, some of the places, we're the highest, it sounds so stupid, but highest ranking progressives that have a real chance at winning.
Right.
Like we can actually win this race. And then both the primary and the general, if people help all over. And so I think that's a difference for us. And it's different than presidential politics, but it's almost as impactful.
Right. And if you're out of state, obviously, if you're listening out of state or out of state, what do you call it? Someone lives out of state, you obviously cannot vote, but you can donate money to help Betsy with a campaign.
Yes.
We don't want you committing no voter fraud by voting with. We know the president doesn't really condone such things.
Yeah.
But I did see a few things on your website that I want to touch on briefly before we wrap up. There's a thing on it that says 1 in 4 U.S. workers have no paid sick leave.
Yep.
And when I read that, first of all, I didn't know that. So when I read that, first thing that came to my mind was that has to be illegal, right? Like they have no paid sick leave. Like that has to be illegal. And if it's not, we have to make that illegal, correct?
Yes, we have to, because, right. And so now again, but Johnny, this is exactly what I was talking about, the opening we have now, right? So now I would hope that as human beings, if you were sick, I would care about you and I would want you to stay home and be well. And that's true for most people. But for some people, they've been taught not to give what's wrong with you. But now in the era of COVID and an airborne pandemic, if you're sick and you come to work, you're going to get me sick.
Everybody gets sick.
I'm going to go home and get my family sick. So now I have a little more interest in you having paid sick leave as well as me. So, I helped write the first family medical leave bill in the country back in 1986. When you couldn't even get time off to go care for a sick parent or a kid or a spouse, even with no pay, you would still lose your job. So we have to get paid sick leave and we have to get paid family leave. And you're right, we have to make it illegal for employers not to give that to people. That's just human.
That just sounds inhumane. Like when I read that, I was just like, that can't be true. I have to ask because that's just craziness. So let's get to some fun stuff. We really appreciate you being here and talking to us. And giving us more information on the issues you stand with and how you plan to get rid of old lady Susan.
Yeah.
But so I'll ask you this though: when you have to relax, how do you relax? What
Oh.
do you do? What do you do to relax?
Okay, I do a couple of things. I love to dance, and I have
Oh,
3 spectacular daughters. I have a 25-year-old and twin 21-year-olds or
nice.
22-year-olds, yeah. And so we do a lot of kitchen dancing, which is that's what I mean by dancing. I don't mean like fancy.
Hey, I was trying to get food details of that, so
I was picturing salsa club.
right.
Oh, yeah, no. It's not that anybody else wants to see. It's just what I do.
That's the dance. Okay.
Yeah, kitchen dancing, and then I'm a big outdoors person. So I actually am a pretty amateur but very enthusiastic bird watcher, and I like to ride my bike, and I like to. I have a little boat. My grandpa was a lobsterman, as I said, so I have a huge affinity for the ocean. So I have this pathetic little 1978 boat, but I love it that I take out on the ocean sometimes and go fishing, and I like that. And
Right.
let's see what else. And I like to I sing, and I actually sing in a choir, so it's not as pathetic as my dancing, but
I'm sure it's both lovely. So what about the audiobook or music? What are you listening to?
let's see. That's a good question. So a book. Right now, I'm reading Where the Crawdads Sing, which is so awesome. It's really fantastic.
I'm sorry, what was it?
It's Where the Crawdads Sing. It's a story
Okay.
about someone in the bayou, and it's really awesome in the South. And then I read All the Light We Cannot See. So I like to read novels that are a little bit more meaningful than junk novels. So that's fun. And then music. I am a Alicia Keys, folk pop kind of, that sort of vibe.
Nice. Alicia Keys is good. That's a good one, Betsy.
Yeah.
That you get some new followers for that. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
okay, awesome. Well, when I ran for governor 2 years ago, my dream was at the inauguration is to have Alicia Keys come sing "This Girl's on Fire."
Oh, that'd be
Look
great.
at that.
We're still going to see that hopefully for the Senate.
Hopefully, when you get rid of Susan and you get in there, that will still be Alicia Keys.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Absolutely. What about meal? Favorite meal?
I love. Well, I'm a lobster girl because I'm from Maine and my grandpa's a lobster.
Seafood, absolutely.
So how can right? And I'm also I'm a sushi person. I like sushi a lot. And what else? And I love some cornmeal and greens are another favorite of mine. So, I'm pretty eclectic. My favorite food is something that someone else cooks.
Oh, okay, that's good.
I'd love to cook, but I just don't have time. So if somebody else makes it for me, I love it.
Find out the cooks and you eat. That's it.
Exactly.
That sounds good. Oh, so you have anything for Betsy?
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
No, you have another question for Betsy?
No, I don't. I just wanted to congratulate her for, being out there, putting yourself out there, not just for yourself, but for your fellow Maine residents and all of us at the end of the day, because we can't give up. We gotta fight, and people like you are inspiring me to. Hey, I have to.
Yeah.
I observe all this, and I know that it's two wings, same bird, with regards to the establishment parties, in the sense of the upper echelon establishment groups, and the natural reaction is to say, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah.
But I can't help myself. I take in information all the time, and you can tell the games that are being played. And my natural inclination is to say, well, it's just going to keep happening. But people like you stepping out and saying, let's fight. It just gives me hope, and inspires me to be better myself. So thank you for what you do. We'll definitely be donating to the cause, and
absolutely
watching for everything.
Thank you. Well, OC, I just want to say one thing about that, and it's so great to talk with you guys. I'm really honored to be with you, and it's really fun. But when young people say to me, geez, Betsy, you've been doing this for a long time. You're sort of old and you're still enthusiastic and you're still optimistic. And why, why, how? And I say, well, two things. One is that I believe it doesn't have to be this way. In my bones, I know we can do better than this. And, the other thing is that I'm the youngest of 5 kids. And my dad used to say to us kids, now you kids, when you leave a place, you make sure you leave it better than you found it. Now he meant to sweep the floor and make the bed. I thought he meant change the world. So I was like, okay, I'm in. I feel like it's my destiny, I got to do it.
Right. So go ahead and tell the people exactly how they can help, what your website is and how they can donate and how they can follow and be supportive.
Absolutely. So if you go to Betsy Sweet, BetsySweet.com, that's my website. And then all my social media is Betsy Sweet ME, which is Maine. Betsy Sweet Me, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, all that stuff. So we are there. We want you.
You're on Reddit as well?
Yeah.
Wow, you are everywhere for real.
It's been groovy.
Love it. We love it.
Yeah. So please help us. Please be involved into whatever way you can. If you can do a little bit, just try and do a little bit more, because we've got 53 days left before we hit this hurdle, and I really think we can do it. I really am excited. I think we can do this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate you taking the time out.
Oh, thank you.
Have a great Friday, a great weekend. Enjoy yourself.
You too.
Get some seafood and do some more dancing. Yeah, exactly. Do some more dancing. And have a great rest of your day, Betsy. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, you guys are awesome. And really, thanks so much for having me. And hopefully the next time we'll chat, I will be the official nominee and then as senator.
Yes, absolutely. We are rooting for you. Absolutely. We can't wait for that.
All right. You take good care, guys. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Point Noted Podcast with Johnny B. and Rashad B. Follow us on Twitter @PTNoted and Instagram @PointNoted. Hit the subscribe and follow button to follow us and check out more episodes of us talking a whole bunch of shit. You've been noted.